Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really awesome accessory for the Nintendo Switch. And you know, when it comes down to it, this is probably my favorite one that I've tested so far. And basically, what this is going to allow us to do is transform our Nintendo Switch, be it the base version with the LCD screen or even the OLED version, into a GameCube-style handheld console. And in my opinion, this is really awesome, and I think one of the best things about this accessory here, it's actually made by a company known as RETROFLAG, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you might know exactly who they are. They created the G-Pi case for the Raspberry Pi, and they also made some really great console-style cases for the Pi. So they've been on the block for a little while now, and they do offer some top-notch products. Now, like I mentioned, this does work with the LCD Switch or the original Switch and the newer OLED Switch. Personally, I've been using the OLED a lot more than the LCD version, so that's probably what we're going to be testing out most, but we'll take a look at both of them and how they fit. And with this, they did add a couple extra goodies here, like Hall sensor-based joysticks. So if you're not familiar with this technology, basically instead of using a physical connection with the analog stick, it uses a magnetic field, so we don't have to worry about stick drift down the road, and we get a more accurate analog stick or a more accurate joystick. And luckily, they use the full-size Gillikit Hall sensor analog sticks instead of the Switch style, which are a bit smaller, so we do get a really nice analog feel here with both of them. It's also got built-in turbo functionality, vibration motors, and it does support motion controls, but my favorite part is just the overall look. So we've got kind of a see-through design here, and they're going with more of that GameCube purple. Does look really good, and I do want to admit that on camera this might look a little more blue, but I mean they've matched that purple as best they can here, given that they're using kind of a clear shell with the GameCube controllers really well. To the naked eye, this is definitely purple, and it looks absolutely amazing. I've tried several different cameras to try to kind of capture the real color. It's just really hard to do so. But yeah, as you can see, we've got that GameCube layout, C-stick over here on the right-hand side, and we've got those larger face buttons. These are using conductive pads behind them, along with the D-pad. And the D-pad is a little oversized when you compare it to other controllers on the market, but it works very well, and we will get into some fighting games to test this out by the end of the video. But I've had a chance to test this thing out for the last 5 days, and to tell you the truth, it's really going to be hard for me to go back to Joy-Cons on my Switch. One of my big peeves with the Joy-Cons is, you know, they do get a bit loose, and with the stock Joy-Cons, we do have that separated D-pad. And in my opinion, it's just not great for fighting games. I mean, you can always get used to it, but nothing beats a really good D-pad, and this thing definitely has one. Now, one thing I'd love to see changed maybe in the future on a second revision, maybe for like the Switch Pro or Switch 2, is the inclusion of analog triggers. Unfortunately, this does not have linear triggers, so these are either on or off. But yeah, getting this set up with your Switch is actually really simple, and we're going to start out here with the LCD Switch, or the older model of the Switch. And this new RetroFlag controller actually works over USB, so it's going to plug directly into the USB Type-C port on your Nintendo Switch, so we don't have to worry about any kind of latency over Bluetooth. And yeah, it does support PD fast charging, so while this is all hooked up, we can still charge the Switch at its maximum current. And since this new controller is working over USB, it's kind of using the same protocol as the Switch Pro controller, so there is one setting that we need to turn on from the settings on the Switch itself. So we'll just head in here, find controllers, and there's an option in here for the Switch Pro controller over USB. Now keep in mind, this doesn't have NFC built in, it's going to totally disable it. So unfortunately, using amiibos with this new controller is kind of out of the question. And really, I've been using this a lot with the OLED Switch. I've already got that setting enabled, but just keep in mind, from the settings, you will need to enable that Pro controller over USB in order for this to work. So this is going to slide right down inside of the new controller. Obviously, we need to remove the Joy-Cons. And in this new controller, it's got kind of a felt backing, so you're not going to scratch up your Switch once you slide this down. But both of these do fit perfectly in here. And the Switch is actually going to send power to the unit itself, so we don't have to worry about charging up a battery or anything like that. And since we're connected over USB, no latency at all. But it's automatically going to start working as long as you've enabled that Switch Pro over USB from the settings. And yeah, I mean, it works out really well here. We've also got that home button, a dedicated screenshot button, and a turbo/swap button. So we can actually set this up so any button on here will work as a turbo button, and we can also swap out buttons on the fly. And really, the overall ergonomics here with this new controller are excellent. Definitely a lot more comfortable, at least in my opinion, than using regular Joy-Cons. There's just a lot more to grab onto. And it's actually a really sturdy design, but keep in mind this is going to add some weight to your Switch setup. The controller itself without a Switch installed is 270 grams. Now obviously this works with the original LCD Switch, but the way I want to go with it is with this OLED Switch. We just get a lot more screen here and just an overall better screen. So yeah, we'll just slide this one back out. And to tell you the truth, the OLED Switch does kind of slide in here a little easier. Now on both of them you don't have to add any force at all. It'll just kind of lock right down in there. It'll plug right into that USB port, and we've got two little spring locks where the Joy-Cons usually go on the Switch that kind of keep this thing right in place. It's not going to come out if you turn this thing upside down or kind of swing it around a little bit. It's actually in here really nicely. But yeah, overall here, loving the feel. Buttons are awesome. Analog sticks are great. This D-pad is actually much better than I ever thought it would be. And I actually really love the look. Now obviously this is modeled after a GameCube controller, so let's go ahead and jump into some sunshine. Okay, so yeah, the C-stick here actually feels really good. Just put a little bit of movement in it. And yeah, I mean, having those Hall sensors here is really great. And you know, in 2022, we've seen a bunch of controllers and devices come to the market with these Hall sensor-based joysticks. And at least 99% of them are using the analog mechanism made by a company called Gillikit. They make the larger ones, which we have here, and they also have the smaller ones, which are on par with the size of the Switch Joy-Con analog sticks. I personally prefer the larger ones, and I mean, they work great with this controller here. Now again, I really do wish they would have added linear triggers around back. This is actually one of those games that would support it, but unfortunately these are just on or off, and it would have been nice to have them, but with 90% of the games that I play on the Switch, I would probably never use it in the first place, so I can kind of overlook this. And real quick, I did want to show you that yes, we can access the cart slot when we have the Switch inside of here, so we can swap these out pretty easily. Pretty simple to use this turbo/swap button. Now if you just want to swap out buttons, all we have to do is hold both of the buttons that we want to swap. We're going to interchange those two buttons, and then we'll press the turbo/swap button. It'll give us a nice little vibration to know that it has swapped it out. And we've also got turbo functionality. So what we're going to do is hold the turbo button, press the button we want to enable turbo with, and there you have it. So with something like Metal Slug, I mean, as you can see, turbo's off, turbo's on now, and with this you don't even need to pick up a machine gun because this thing is rocking out. I'm not a huge fan of motion controls on basically any console, but they are built in here to the controller. So with something like Mario Odyssey, we've got kind of that flick mechanism where we can throw our hat around, and it works quite well. I mean, it works just as well as having the Joy-Cons attached to the unit. Now it's time to test this D-pad out, and you know, when it comes to the stock Joy-Cons, I just don't like them because of the separated D-pad. As you can see here, got those 4 buttons. Of course, we can go third-party with it, and I mean, it's really up to you. You can get used to it, but having a real D-pad is definitely the way to go, especially with these fighting games like Street Fighter. And on the Switch, they do offer a pretty extensive collection of Capcom fighting games. And this D-pad feels and works amazingly. RetroFlag has had some time to kind of perfect their D-pad, and they've taken everything they've learned from the G-Pi cases over here, and they kind of upsized it a little bit, but I'm not complaining about the size here. It is a bit oversized from something like an Xbox controller, but I really do like the way it's set up. We've got great feedback here from the conductive pads they're using, and it gives you a nice roll. I mean, it's got a little bit of movement to it. It's not a loose D-pad or anything like that. I think they did a great job with the way they've got this one set up. So yeah, I've been having a really great time with this new RetroFlag controller for the Switch. I love the color, great build quality, got some awesome features built in here, like that motion control. We've also got dual vibration motors, Hall sensors in the joysticks, and that turbo/swap button. I completely understand that the look might not be for everybody, but you know, if you were ever into the GameCube, this is an awesome little accessory to get for your Switch, and it is available on Amazon. And the price on this, as of making this video, is $49.99. If you're interested in picking one up, I will leave a couple links in the description. I'll also leave a link to RETROFLAG's website, just so you can take a look at all of the features that are built in here. But if you're looking for something different for the Switch, then this is something that I could definitely recommend. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the design here. Is this something you're interested in picking up? And like always, thanks for watching.